Good morning, Richard Kelly and Creekside Realty. We're here to talk about real estate in Silicon Valley, followed by the Greater Bay Area. Silicon Valley is the orange area, Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, and Alameda, slides 3 through 61. Then we'll add in 10 other counties and come back and talk about the Greater Bay Area. That's going to be slides 64 through 78. There'll be a timestamp for those that want to jump forward. Here's just my normal details. We're going to try asking questions as they come up. There's not that many people, and I haven't had questions in a while, so just interrupt when you have a question. We'll come back to this. This is my contact information. Happy to work with buyers and sellers. Getting into days on sold inventory. Days on sold inventory is how quickly would it take to sell the existing inventory at the existing rate of sales without any new properties coming on the marketplace. It basically tells you the speed of the marketplace. From 40 to 80 is a balanced market with no color. Above 80 is blue in color. Below 40 is red in color. Saturated red happens at 7 days. You can see there Alameda County is pretty aggressive, right around 35 days of unsold inventory. Everybody else is more like 45 days and longer. The expensive areas in San Mateo County are actually above 150 days, and you can see that in the blue. Here's the magnitude of overbidding. Oakland stands out. I actually think this might be a bad data point. I've been looking for it. I suspect what happened is one property claims that they got $510 million for it instead of $510,000. I can't find it though, but everything else looks reasonable. And that 107% is reasonable, but not when you look at the other conditions Oakland is seeing. But you can see most areas are blue in color or at least white. Blue starts at 99%. So all the areas that are blue are looking at least a 1% discount over their ask price at the time of the sale. And that again is on average. Here's the frequency of overbidding, how common is overbidding. So you can see Alameda County is a light pale blue. The bay portions of Alameda County are basically white. You can see Santa Clara County, the heart of it is pretty white, but that some of the more expensive and outlying areas are definitely blue in color, which means you're getting less than 33% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. Again, Oakland's on top with just under 50% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. San Mateo Costa is at dead last at 0%. Not one seller got over their asking price. Here's your price range. The middle is the median, which is what assigns the color. The number to the left is the lowest 10 percentile. The number to the right is the highest 10 percentile. Blue is below the median. Red is above the median. The median has basically been artificially defined as Redwood City. What's interesting is the Bay Cities now is slightly less expensive by $100,000 than Redwood City. Normally it's the other way around. It's been this way for the last several weeks though. Now we're looking at the data over time. We're going back 10 years. We have the red line is the hottest it's been over the last 10 years. The thin black line is where you'd expect the data set to be. And the blue line, it would have been the coolest marketplace. When you're looking at inventory, it's the highest level of inventory is the blue line. The red line is the lowest level of inventory. The purple is the actual inventory. You can see inventory has turned around and started to increase, but we don't have a surplus of inventory despite the slow marketplace. In fact, we're slightly below the typical inventory. We're above the lowest we've been, but we're below what you'd expect. We're significantly below the most we've had. We've had as much as 2,000 listings on the market right now, and right now we're only down here probably somewhere around 1,300, 1,400. Now we're looking at the number of offers. In my opinion, this is the real story. The lack of transactions. You can see that in 2021, we were basically having our best year ever. We went into 2022 and we're basically right at the end of the year. You can't tell because the data's on top of one another. We started off 2022 being the best year we ever had. And then somewhere right around April 1st, the number of offers accepted, instead of continuing to climb, started to roll over, and then they abruptly reverse directions came down. You can see in July, there was a slight improvement for July and August, but September reversed the trend. And we're now clearly, easily, visually the lowest we've ever been. Yes, this is the low time of the year. Yes, it looks like it's just about ready to start bottoming out and turning around and going back up. The historical data has gone back up. I think the difference here is Christmas Christmas came on a Sunday. So it's basically the latest I considered it. I considered this to be a full week in 2022 when really it was a holiday week. And normally if Christmas was like, say, on Thursday, the holiday would have been on Friday. By the time you got into January, you would have had a full week. I think a lot of this is just the calendar event because I now compare the same day out of the year. I start on March 1st every year and it just works out. And I think it's January the 3rd, which is a Tuesday, is the start and end of my weeks. Here's the number of closed transactions, which is going to be like the number of offers, just lagging behind. So here the data is still downwards, and it will be downwards for a couple more weeks because of the 4 or 5 week delay to close in escrow. But again, you can see number of closings is by far the lowest we've been. We really haven't been below 1,500, and we're rapidly approaching 1,000. When I say we haven't been below 1,500, yeah, we were down at 1,300 here, but that's still, another 300 fewer transactions. And when you're talking about a base of 1,300, that's a 25% less volume this year than our slowest year in the past. Here's your days of unsold inventory. You can see a hot year, we'd be down here. A cold year, you'd be here. And instead, we're way up here. And again, you can look, and we're basically at the slow time of the year. So that doesn't bother me. But we're also basically at the highest level that we've had. And I suspect it will go a little bit above next week. And then before we turn around, I think we're going to have one more week up, but we'll find out. Here's days on market. Now we have more room to go up here, but you can see that we're right now the second slowest days on market. And this is looking on the median. So this is where 50% of the sellers are taking something like 23 and a half days to sell their property. You can see the fastest we got was down here somewhere around 7-8 days on the market for the median seller. Concept on the color coding is the same. The red is the hottest marketplace, blue is the coolest, and the black is where you'd expect. So right now we're basically equal to the coolest marketplace you'd expect to have. Here's 75-day. I like this a little bit better. It doesn't jump as much because it's not a full data point. And so you can see the pattern is exactly the same. You can see the improvement during the month of August and September, and you can see we're still going up. We're a little on this metric, we're a little bit lower, and it looks like we're about ready to roll over. Look at the purple line on how it looks like it's just starting to pull away down from the blue line a little bit. Here's a relatively new slide. We're looking at the asking price reductions. And we're looking at the lowest 10 percentile. So this is the sellers that took the biggest discount. And the reason we did that is if you looked at the typical seller at the 50 percentile, there would be, most of the time, it would be right at 100% and you wouldn't see the discount. If you looked at the 90%, there would never be a discount. And you can see by doing the 10 percentile, a fair amount of the year, you're right here at 100% with the sellers not taking any sort of a discount. And you can also see that tends to happen at the same time every year. Basically, our strong selling season, first quarter delayed by about a month and a half, mid-February through mid-April, mid-May is when this market typically is on fire and sellers don't, even the 10 percentile seller doesn't take a discount. Right now, we're below the worst year we've ever had by quite a bit. Right now, the slowest seller, the seller that's most aggressive in reducing its price, has taken essentially a 10% price reduction. At this time of the year, you can see the hottest, you're at 100, you'd expect about a 2.25% reduction. So you expect some reduction at this period of time, but not anywhere close to 10%. This is the average. So this is everybody in a blender, and you can see that we're below 98%. Again, it's below everything else. And this is the reason I did price reductions was it eliminates the time you need to get to closings. It's an earlier indicator of the sale price to list price ratio. The fact that this is going up is encouraging, but you can see from the historical lines, it normally is going up at this time of the year. The real question is it going up more or less slowly than the historical lines? Here's the magnitude of overbidding. This is where you put in, so now we've jumped forward 5 weeks and we've closed all our escrows. We know the sale price, and right now the sellers are getting less than their ask price. And this is their ask price at the time the offer is accepted. Right now they're at about 99.75%, not much of a discount, but you can see normally, even in a cool marketplace, you're at above 100%. You'd expect to be up here at about 102 0.5%, and instead you're down here at something like 99.5%. Fairly significant difference. You can see how dramatically the drop was. You can see the plateau for the improvements in July and August. Now you're looking at the frequency of overbidding. This is how common, and it's becoming the least common across the board, with basically something approaching 30%, call it 33%. So overall, the market would be that blue color, because that's where it starts coming in, is at 33%. You can see that the worst year we had was basically around 40%, clearly not doing very well compared to our historical track record. Here's the magnitude of overbidding average, and you can see how much that has dropped down. For the second time, we're looking at the average overbid. You can see how dramatically the slide came down. We were at 100% for a couple months as we worked through that plateau, which is why I stay away from it and why I use the average instead of the median. And now you can see we're down below 100%, approaching 98% of the typical seller. This is all the sellers averaged up together. Now we're looking at the sold price, and this is plotted on logarithmic scale paper, and sort of just a freehand line through it sort of shows you the rate of appreciation. We're now below the long-term rate of appreciation. You can see there have been periods of time below, there's been periods of time above. Typically, we're above during the hot part of the season. Typically, we're below right after the holiday. Everything makes sense. It's just with the steepness of that, I'm not sure it's going to turn around and come back up, but we're going to start having resistance now for any further price reductions. What we've been talking about with Silicon Valley data, single family homes, which includes detached homes and duet homes in 3 counties, Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, Alameda County, using a 5-week period of time gathered on March 1st, and then multiples of 7. And then we jump, when we get to the end of February, we jump forward to March 1st again. So we don't have the calendar. Now we're looking at the overbidding ratio distribution. This is the sale price to list price distribution for each week. The best week we ever had was just less than a year ago on March 29th, 2022. The worst week we ever had was November 30th of 2001, right after the World Trade Center. Purple is our current week. A year ago, we were on the dotted line when both the red up arrow and the blue down arrow is. There's not much change. Obviously, red up means an improving marketplace, and a blue down only means a decreasing marketplace. We'll step through this. Slight improvement, dramatic improvement, basically no change, decrease, 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 decrease. Now no change. That's 3 months ago, 12 weeks ago, 11. So you can see there's basically no change for several weeks here. And about 3 weeks ago, again, you'll see, because clearly we've gotten worse again, and it hasn't happened at 8 weeks or even 7 weeks. You might argue that it starts on week number 6, but week 5 is right there again. And then week 4 is definitely showing up as a downward. Week 3 is definitely down. 2 is definitely down. Then last week. And just for disclosures, when I say plus 1 week, it's a partial week, because remember, I do March 1st, so my week starts on Tuesday this year. I'm comparing the same days. The January 24th isn't here yet. This is actually data only through January 20th. Even though I normally compare the 24th of January to the 24th of January using a 5-week moving average, to get you up-to-date data through Friday, I report only data through the 20th. I'm reporting data for the 20th, and I'm comparing it to the 20th. I'm going back a full 5 weeks so that the volume and stuff are not impacted. It's a partial week. It's an off week that I'm going to do every year. But when you see January 24th or any day in the future, realize that that's just back through midnight on Friday, the week I'm doing it. So here through the 21st is the data, all your different micro market areas in all 3 counties. I've added in Alameda County finally. We start off with Santa Clara County, then San Mateo, and then Alameda. Days of unsold inventory is your keyest indicator. They're all important, but that's the leading indicator. Magnitude of overbidding, you can see here, mostly blue in color. frequency of overbidding, mostly blue. Sold price has nothing to do with market conditions. It has only to do with price. Redwood City is defined as your median, which is right here at essentially $2 million, along with Foster City and Redwood Shores. Normally, the base cities is more expensive right here, but you can see it's at 1.9 million instead of 2, so it's 100,000 cheaper. It's been that way for several weeks, but that's not the normal historical orientation on pricing. Sorry that I don't have the micro market areas over here. They're over here on the left, and I'll try to add in the 10 percentile and the 90 percentile for Alameda County. Here's your days of unsold inventory going back. I'll have Alameda County going forward. You can see how red Alameda County is compared to the other two counties. Now you can see the breakdown, the Silicon Valley's all three in a blender. Then you can see each one of the components. You can see the number of new listings was up 12.5%, the least in Santa Clara County, up the most in San Mateo County. And again, that's just to do with the time of the year. It's not anything else. Number of active listings is up because the new listings coming on the marketplace. We haven't had time to sell them yet. Offers accepted in the past week, basically a mixed bag, which is a little surprising. But that's because it's 5 weeks. So Santa Clara County's up 1%, San Mateo County's down 4%. Overall, you're down 1%. Days of unsold inventory numbers normally increasing at this time of the year, as we saw in the graphs. Not a huge number of changes. Number of closings, you can see the difference in price. One of the things I wanted to point out was Santa Clara County and San Mateo County are very close together. They're only off by $5,000 on their median price. Very unusual for them to be that close together. It was also interesting, I don't have it on this slide, but in one of my number crunchings, San Francisco was also essentially right at $1.5 million. I don't expect anyone to pay attention, but the blue is basically the least number of offers accepted. So you can see at 825, that's the fewest number of offers we've accepted. The previous low number was back here in 2008 at 978. We went from 2007 and 8 being the slowest year to 2020 during the pandemic. And then we went from this being one of the fastest years in 2022 early to being one of the slowest. And it was a pretty abrupt change. The pale blue down here is the second slowest. So just real quick, so you can see those numbers. Now we're comparing apples and apples, but this is Santa Clara County only, single family detached homes only. I'm not comparing apples and apples because this is January data, which isn't available to February 5th. But the takeaways, in my opinion, are the lack of volume, 305 transactions, when the previous low, I think, is going to be 532. You're quite a bit lower. You're 200 units fewer transactions closing. That's pretty dramatic. That should be showing up in closings going forward. But the part of the reason it's so dramatic is the number of offers accepted will increase fairly significantly over the next 2 weeks. This 305 number that we're comparing everything to will actually increase most likely by the time we get to February the 5th and can get apples and apples comparisons. Same thing with the closings, but right now we're at a record low number of closings at 366. The previous low was 437, but with closings, I don't know which direction it will go. That's one of the drawbacks of comparing it, but you can look at price. We're down to $1.5 million. We were last year we were at 1.680. We were as high as 1.868, I think. I don't think we hit 1.9 in San Mateo in Santa Clara County. And to give you an idea of the difference, Santa Clara County, it clearly didn't hit 2 million, and San Mateo County hit 2.3 million for their median. And now we're basically at the same price point. That's a pretty dramatic shift. Here's comparing apples and apples. But the drawback here is you're only looking at December data, so it's only through January 5th. And the number of closings was a record low at 476. The offers was also a record. So I don't want to beat it up too much, but the low volume of sales is the big thing. And the low volume of sales becomes the low volume of closings. Now we're moving on to compare the three components of Silicon Valley. So you have Santa Clara County in the blue, you have San Mateo in the orange, and Alameda County in the gray. You can see they track fairly similarly, which is why they're grouped together. Here's days on market 75 percentile. You can see it's increasing, very similar. Average days on on market, same sort of pattern. I'm going through this pretty quick because we've just saw it for the blended data, and now you're seeing it for the county data, individuals. Median data, very similar. This, again, is noteworthy. This is the original price to the current list price. So you're looking at the ratio, how much of a discount did the seller have to take at the time that they accepted their offer. You can see San Mateo County really pulled away here for the last couple of weeks. It'd be interesting to see what happens on that. But this way you can get some sense of what's happening with the marketplace without having to wait until the escrow closes, which you need to do when you look at sale price. So I thought looking at that was good. Number of listings. San Mateo County is just a smaller county, which is why it's lower. Number of offers accepted. Again, it's based on the size of the county, the number of transactions. Sold price. You can see that Alameda County is doing better than both Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. And this is the sale price to list price ratio. So this is the amount of discount at the time that the offer is accepted. This is the frequency of overbidding. Again, Alameda County is doing quite a bit better than either Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. Sold price, Alameda County is the cheaper county, so it's down here. You can see in this data presentation, there's a slight difference between Santa Clara County median and San Mateo County, but they're fairly close together compared to their historical about 10% separation. Here's your sold price over time median for the three counties. You can see that Alameda County is the cheapest, and it's come back. This is on a log scale, so in theory, you could draw a line through here and see the rate of appreciation. And if you did that, you could see that the last year and a half, there's been all three counties, you would have been above the line. All three counties, you're now below the line. So the prices would start to look like they're a bargain, but cost is more expensive because of the higher interest rates. Here's your appreciation since 2015 March. I wanted to bring this slide up. I introduced it maybe last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. It showed that volume actually went up as payments went up. And I think this is more a fallacy of timing. I should have compared it probably to the change of volume compared to normal, because normally you have a huge run up in volume at the beginning part of the year, and then you have a slowdown in those summer months, which most people aren't aware of, and then you have another run up right around Halloween. So I think this is simply coincidental that the interest rate payment did a cycle that matches the historical seasonal cycle of volume. So if I did a comparison of percent change of volume, it may be a different story. I'm going to work on this because I think it's interesting to see, but it's going to be a couple weeks before I can bring it back. But I wanted to just address that. So the Greater Bay Area, the 13 counties we talked about. I also have micro market areas within Silicon Valley, 3 county areas. And now we're going to talk about the Greater Bay Area. So we're bringing in San Francisco, Marin, Sonoma, Napa, Solano, Contra, Costa, and then the Bay Area, 9 counties. And then we bring in the Central Valley with being Sacramento County and San Joaquin County, and the Central Coast being Santa Cruz and Monterey. You're looking at the number of active listings, the number of offers, the DUI. You can see the ranges. Monterey's the slowest at 115. Napa's pretty slow at 100, but you can see a lot of them are right around 60 days of unsold inventory, which is a pretty aggressive marketplace. Days on market for the 75th percentile, I felt that was a better benchmark than the median. It gives you some idea, Napa 99 days, Monterey, at 91. And you can see there's a slight difference. Monterey has a slower DUI, but a quicker DOM. It's just, these are just benchmarks to help you understand there's no exact one right answer and one metric that's the giveaway for everything. Here's your original list price to the list price at the time the offer is accepted. You can see that, discounts are 2, 3, 5% overall. Discount at the time the offer is accepted, frequency of overbidding, the sale price. And so here you can see that San Mateo and Santa Clara and San Francisco all came in exactly the same. How does that happen when my previous slide showed a $5,000 difference? I grabbed the data at different times and then I process it slightly differently. The difference between 1495 and 1.5 million is essentially zero. One extra transaction could have made that difference, if there was no sales, and sales tend to happen at round numbers. So it doesn't surprise me that there wasn't an offer accepted at $14.99, for example. And there might have been 2 more sales. But anyway, this just documents that there they're close together. And even Marin is cheaper than Santa Clara County. Here's all 5 micromarket areas. So Silicon Valley is the 3 counties that we've been talking about. San Francisco and Marin is just the 2. North Bay is Sonoma, Napa, Solano, and Contra Costa. Central Valley is obviously Sacramento and San Joaquin, and then Santa Cruz and Monterey. The colors are the same. Silicon Valley is purple to be consistent with the beginning part. And you can see that they've all come down and turned around. Inventory is now starting to increase in all 5 areas. Offers accepted. They're still looking like they're going down. They might have turned around in the Central Valley, and they look like they're leveling off here in Santa Clara County area. I would expect all of them to turn around and start going up fairly soon. Closed transactions probably have another couple weeks in the downward trend, but you can see that across the board, the volume right now is lower than we've ever been for the past 10 years. Here's days of unsold inventory. So the slowest area is the Santa Cruz Monterey area here at something like 110 days of unsold inventory. The fastest area, hard to really tell, might be the gray line, which would be the North Bay. Right there too is Silicon Valley. The purple line at about 60 days. So you range from 60 to 110 days of unsold inventory. Median days on market, that's the 50 percentile market. Here's the 75% that I think is more significant. You can see that Silicon Valley, the purple, is doing the best. It's the fastest paced marketplace. Then the other 4 areas are pretty well grouped together as far as time on the marketplace. Price reductions very closely together, hard to see, but you can see that those are some of the steepest discounts we've been taking. Typical price reduction, Silicon Valley, the purple's taking the least reduction. Santa Cruz, Monterey is taking the most increase. When you see the orange line up here, the Central Valley line shoot off like that, clearly I have a data point. I haven't gone looking for it, but I basically have 2 that I should be able to find and correct. Basically in your eyeball, just connect these lines right through here as if it didn't abruptly go up like that. But if you had one list price that's off by a factor of 1,000, that's going to bring up the average, which is one of the reasons I like to use percentiles, is they don't get impacted by one bad data point. Here's the magnitude of overbidding. You can see the trend is very similar. You can see we're record low levels because the blue is Santa Cruz Monterey, and it doesn't look like it's been that low. The orange to the orange looks like it's record low. The gray to the gray is a record low. So yeah, these are record small amounts of overbidding. So overbidding is less now than it's ever been in the last 10 years. Here's the overbidding of the 5%, the 10 percentile. This is the cheapest. So if you're going in and you're buying a property that's been on the market for a long time, what would be the reasonable expectation? It's a garbage number because it depends on what the listing's priced at. But some sellers, buyers want to know that. But you can see that a discount of 8% is pretty significant. It's pretty rare to get a discount of 8%. You can see Santa Cruz Monterey is approaching a 10% discount. And that's the people that were taking the biggest discount. This is the median overbid. So again, you can spend a lot of time right at 100 percentile, which is why I don't like it. And here's the 90 percentile. So now you can see that even though we're in a slow marketplace, if the sellers that are taking the biggest overprices are somewhere around 2.5% above their asking price, Silicon Valley in the purple, somewhere around 7.5%. The sellers that are getting the most overbidding, it's only about 7.5%. Compare that to a little while ago when it was at 138%. And the average was 118%, dramatically different in a very short period of time. Frequency of overbidding, again, you can see the rapid run-up that we went to and then the absolute falling off the cliff. And it looks like we're going to start going forward a little bit more normally, but only time will tell that. I'm open for any questions. Just for disclosure, you won't be watching this probably until Sunday evening just because of my work schedule. And I do not have the handout out. I worked through some issues getting the new slides up. Would love comments on whether you like the new slides or whether I'm missing any data that you'd like to see. Not seeing any questions, I'll call it a week and see hopefully everybody next week. Bye now.